All right, Elaine, just hang tight as we wait for others to join and we'll start shortly.
Thank you, Christina. We'll just give folks another couple of minutes and then we'll get started.
Sounds good. Just giving it another minute for folks to join.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's Policy Committee meeting. My name is Ruth Fortune. I am the chair of the Policy Committee. I apologize. I am not on camera. I'm just transitioning from one meeting to this one, but I will have my camera turned on in just a bit. And we have a fairly short agenda, I think. So thank you for making the time. And without any further ado, we'll dive into the first item on our agenda, which is the second reading of the food services no charging policy, which in short is us adopting a policy to state what we've already been doing. And Kay pointed out that we should have this policy, and it's now also required under Connecticut law. Hartford Public Schools does not charge for lunch or for food to our students, but we are now adopting a policy stating so. Ms. Wilson, did you want to add anything to this?
I'm not, I assume you're speaking to me, and if so, no.
Yes, Miss Wilson, I said yes.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you. Yes.
nothing to add. Yeah, it's we either have Attorney Wilson or, you know, the other Wilson. So, okay. Any question on this policy from anyone? Christina, would you kindly let me know if you see any hands raised?
Yep, I do
don't-
not.
Okay. All right. Well, super. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. It is the second reading of bylaw 9321.2, which is moving the consent agenda. Is Board Member Mills in
I
attendance?
do not see him, no.
Okay, so he requested this change, essentially to allow the board to pull items from the consent agenda for further discussion during the regular meetings. Are there any questions on that, or does anyone want to add anything to what I've said? I don't think I've done a great job summarizing this, but if anyone wants to add anything to it, I'm, happy to turn over the floor.
Chair, this is Board Member Walker.
Go ahead, Board Member Walker.
Yeah, I'm believing the intent here is to move the consent agenda ahead of the business the business meeting portion of the school board meeting, so that anything under consent can be decided early on in the meeting, and as you stated, anything that does not, anything that is objected to in the consent agenda would then just flow down into the business portion of the meeting, right? As it currently stands, the consent agenda is at the end of the meeting or at the latter portion of the meeting after the business portion, and it creates a complication to then have to pull something back up into the business portion of the meeting. And so this movement is to facilitate consent being first, and then anything that doesn't go into consent just flows down to the business section of the meeting. Hopefully I didn't confuse matters, but that was my understanding.
Thank you, Board Member Walker. Did anyone else want to add anything? I believe that's also my understanding, except this is not going to happen with every meeting. We would have to choose for a given meeting to have the consent agenda moved up. That's my understanding, but I could be mistaken.
And just so you know, Ms. Brody has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Board Chair Brody.
Good evening, everyone. My understanding, it was for the ability to move the consent agenda. That's all it was. That's what I thought.
Agreed, right, that it wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily automatically happen, but we have the option to do that.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
We have
agreed.
the option now. Like we could, but I think he wanted to change it because
Right.
we can move things in and out, all of the things, but is to just make the policy say that, but it was for the ability to.
Thank you, Board Chair Brody. Christina, does anyone else have their hands up?
No.
Okay. Is the general sense, just out of curiosity, Christina, do you mind doing a count for board members in the meeting? Is the general consensus that we should, I mean, we already had the first reading, this is the second reading and adoption. We should proceed with this for it to be adopted as policy? Is that where we, just curious how we're feeling about this?
Yes, this is Board Member Walker. I would agree. It aligns with the basic construct of a typical meeting, even on the Robert's Rules of Order. The idea is that the consent items would go first. So yes, I would support the concept.
Okay, thank you. Well, I guess it's only three of us in this meeting.
I was gonna
so
say.
hard to get a true sense. Okay, all right. So we'll proceed with the vote at the general board meeting. Maybe this will be one of the items that actually, because the second reading would just be under consent, so maybe this goes under the business abortion to be discussed further. All right. Next, we'll move on to the batch of policies. For second reading, they're mostly very short policies with the exception of the relationship between the board and the superintendent. I did have a chance to review that more closely. I mean, the itemized list and, the section A of it, it's, it shows which, essentially which tasks fall under the board's purview and what does the superintendent do and what does the superintendent do with the board's approval. It was a very long list. I'm inclined to say we should pull this policy out when we do the batch approval. So we can look at this, as an isolated one policy, but I'm open to other people's ideas. So if anyone has any questions or any further thoughts, Ms. Wilson, I don't know if you wanted to add anything further to this, happy to hear from you.
Yeah, so I agree most of them are quite short. That is one that does have quite a long list. So I think that if that's one that we want to pull and take a closer look at, I think that makes sense. The idea of sort of passing these all in a batch was because they were all pretty simple and just no changes necessary. So if there's one that's not simple, I say let's just pull it and look at it individually. I would be in support of facilitating that.
Okay, thank you. Board members, does anyone have any thoughts on doing that? Did anyone have any additional thoughts on this policy? I mean, for instance, like I looked for the appointment of principals. I know we have a separate policy for that now says the board should approve the appointment of excuse me, principals, but it wasn't listed on this list. So that's why I was wondering if we should take a closer look.
Okay. So to be clear, we're going to pull it out of the batch for the second reading.
I think that's the consensus, right? Unless anyone objects.
I hear no objection. Oh, well, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, I don't have an objection. I have an additional comment on other batch policies.
Okay, but as far as that one,
no, I'm okay. I've seen it in other school district policies, and it is rather lengthy, so I can understand pulling it out.
Board Member Walker, did you have additional comments to the remaining policies where you think there should be revisions made?
Yes. I thought what two, but let me start with my principal comment is on 2220 representative and deliberative groups. There's a top part of that policy that talks about the board encouraging superintendent and administrative staff to create, maintain appropriate relationships with councils, cabinets, committees. That seems perfectly fine. There's a section that Harvard Public Schools seems to have distinct from some other school districts. There's this category called communication, and I want to modify this. Right now, it says that communication between board, education, and staff should be carried out through the superintendent, and that essentially we're making the superintendent kind of a liaison. We'll call him an executive agent. Somehow through the superintendent, all requests have to be in writing, the superintendent, and that somehow these requests, it somehow makes it where the superintendent has to essentially almost filter the information that comes to the board. I certainly think that the superintendent should be aware of staff, or this is spiked out only for staff as I'm reading it. And to me, one of the things that came up with the previous superintendent was the concern that there would be some repercussions or retaliations based on comments or concerns people would share. And so if that was a concern in the past, I'd like to have a policy that doesn't make it have to go through the superintendent, and that they have to kind of filter it and kind of bring it to us. I would like to have the superintendent be informed, to be aware, but I would like to have the policy modified where whatever information people are trying to convey, they can convey in a unfiltered way where it doesn't have to get filtered through the superintendent to get to the board.
Ms. Fortune, if you can't see, Ms. Brody has her hand up.
Go ahead, Board Chair Brody.
Thank you. Oops. Oh, I am. So the superintendent is our only employee, and everyone else is the superintendent's employee. If we are trying to, those are his employees. It should be filtered through him. But anyone in the community is able to not tell any line of chain leading to the superintendent. They can come straight to us. Nothing prevents them from doing that. Nothing prevents us from holding it in confidence. But I think we are overreaching in that.
Well, I'm elevating it because by state statute, I hear what you're saying, and the chain of command should be recognized, and we can still leverage that. The board ultimately has the responsibility for the district. And while I do agree the superintendent is here, I am saying because we have ultimate responsibility, then my only concern is that we structure policy such that we, as the responsible party, don't actually get the information that we're
not
filtered.
Really the responsible party.
By state statute,
the superintendent is responsible to us. He manages the district. We say it in our speech every board meeting. We are not in that, because I think what you're trying to do, and I apologize, Madam Chair, because we're supposed to speak through the chair and not even to each other.
Correct.
So what I'm thinking is that we did not agree with a policy to have the community advising us, and now that seems like that's what exactly what this policy change would be. We don't manage the district. We have to know that we don't.
Through the chair, that's not what's happening here. That is not what's happening here at all. Okay. What I'm saying is state statute has the Board of Education responsible for school districts. Now, be clear, the Board of Education is responsible. Now, as the responsible party, we delegate that to the superintendent to do the day-to-day. Now, it doesn't mean that we still aren't responsible, but yes, we've delegated it, and the superintendent, he or she has a lot of responsibility. I'm saying that if the school board is ultimately responsible, there has to be a vehicle for folks to get information to the school board, and my only concern is to create a way not to cut superintendent out of it or administration out of it, but my only concern is to make sure that information isn't totally filtered through them and that somehow the only way information comes is through just that one singular channel. I don't have an immediate fix, and I do honor what Board Member Brody, Board Chair Brody is saying. So, but I do want to get on the record that the school board is the responsible party. And I'm to be clear, you know, at any time, I know who we've delegated, but at any one time, if a school superintendent says they're resigning and moving away, let's be clear, when the superintendent moves away, no one's going to call them and say, oh, what happened point A, B, C on this date, right? Ultimately, so what I'm saying, the standing group that never leaves and never goes anywhere is the Board of Education. So I'm just saying, be clear about state statute, who the real responsible party is. And then I agree with what Chair is saying. The superintendent is accountable. He's delegated and accountable. I agree. They're accountable. Accountable is not the same as responsible. And so I'm just throwing that out there that even though the superintendent is accountable, does the board never want to hear what's happening, right? That's really what I'm saying. And the way this makes it sound like the board can never hear anything from the staff level of the organization unless it's filtered through the superintendent.
Thank you, Board Member Walker. Board Member Brody, do you still have your hand up for further comments?
I'll put it down, but I think Mr. Walker is saying two things at the same time. But I want to be clear that we do not manage the district employees and none of the such. We hold an individual, being the superintendent, accountable for those things. We are accessible to the public all day, every day, which I know all of us know because we get approached all day, every day. We're responsible to our constituents, and that's pretty much everybody who has an interest in Hartford Public Schools. But we don't manage any employee. And over the years of me observing and serving, that has always been something that we've tried to stay, and board members don't stay. We could get not endorsed by a party, not win an election. So we don't even stay. But the structure is whoever is sitting in this seat is responsible. The superintendent is responsible to them, and whoever is an employee, they are responsible to the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion. Board Member Walker, do you have some clear ideas? I think you say you don't have clear ideas as to how to modify this policy. Is your thought, should we just proceed with it, or do you think this is another policy you'd like to see hold until we address it further?
Mommy, can you take?
Mr. Walker, you're on mute. Yeah.
I apologize. Yeah, this is one that I would say pull it out, because I agree with the Chair Brody that day-to-day management's not the school board's responsibility. This policy here is merely for communication. This is real tight, and this is just saying if a staff wants to communicate, anybody, any staff level, whether it be central office staff, school-based staff, if anybody wants to communicate with the school board, it has to go to the superintendent. And I just want to make sure that we are just clear that it's written in a way where that we are comfortable that the communication can get to the school board in a way where it's not filtered, and in a way where people feel comfortable to communicate it through the superintendent without any concerns of reprisal or retaliation.
Okay, so why don't we also pull out this policy, Ms. Wilson, from the batch, so we can maybe at the next policy meeting discuss this one further, before we make a final decision? Before we do a second reading and adoption?
Did you have a comment, Ms. Wilson? Sorry, her hand was
Yeah,
up.
I did. I also just wanted to add, just to make it really clear that the part that we've been discussing, is actually part of the regulations, not the policy itself. So that gives us a little more flexibility in terms of being able to adjust that language. So I wanted that to be a reminder that, certainly, I'll write down that we'll pull it for further discussion, but, that part we're discussing is in the regulations.
Oh, it, through um, through the chair, again.
You're back on mute, Ms. Fortune.
I said yes, please go ahead, Board Member
Oh,
Walker.
thank you. Yeah, Aaron Wilson, thank you for clarifying that. I didn't quite understand what the R was saying, but okay, that adds a lot of clarification to this. Yeah, let's. I still will advocate for pulling it out, but I think Ms. Wilson's point is a good point, and maybe we can get some education as to how the regulation is trying to work here, because regulations in some ways are trying to breathe life into what the policy is so the 2220 is the policy.
Correct.
So the R is just
In front of
okay.
the 2220.
Okay. Now, okay, I can see it a little bit better. I still would like the conversation. I feel a little differently about it. Thank you for pointing that out, though. That cleared up something that I was it clears up one element of it. So thank you. Okay.
Okay, so I think we are still settling on pulling this out, as well as the relationship between the board and superintendent. So those two policies will come out. We'll review them during the next policy meeting, and then we'll discuss them separately. And then eventually do a first reading and second reading and adoption of each of them separately. Thank you. Christina, would you put up the agenda again, please? Board Member Walker, did you have an additional comment, or is your hand just up
Yes.
from time?
Yeah, Chair, just one final thing, if we're going to move on from this batch, I did want to raise up on 1210. The policy is fine. I just noticed two things in there that I just wanted to ask Aaron Wilson, just to confirm with staff if they're comfortable with it. In 1210, it says that, yeah, it's 1210. Scroll down further in that.
I believe that's it.
It's just one paragraph.
Oh, you know
Or
what? I've been reading the R section. So thank you. If that's all that is, I'm totally good with it. Okay, I see, Ms. Wilson, I'm even reading the R section again. And okay, as it is, I am totally okay with it as that portion of it.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to the next portion of our agenda, which is first readings. The first is the employment reference checks, which is policy 4112.51. And I will turn it over to Ms. Wilson to provide more context to us.
Thank you. Both of the policies that are on for first reading tonight were policies that were identified when we had that CABE audit a couple years ago. They noted that these two policies were missing but recommended. And they are both policies that our executive director of HR, Connie, who's also on the call, had recommended that that we adopt. So this first one is about employment reference checks. She did go through and make sure this is based on the CABE model policy, but we did go through and make sure that it fits with us and it's accurate in terms of what Hartford does. This is nothing new. It's basically just setting in policy what we already have been doing. And if there's any questions about specifics, I think Connie's probably the best person to answer.
Connie, would you like to provide a bit more context and color for the rest of the team here? Thank you.
Sure, thank you, and good evening, everyone. So this reference or this policy is in, we've been doing this, has been, sorry, I muted myself. This has been a practice in our office for several years now. And basically anytime and we have new hires, we have to send out a employment verification check to all the employers within the last 20 years of their experience. To send it out, we have to at least try 3 times and document all of that information. And they do that at the time of hire when they're onboarded.
Did that conclude your comments, Ms. Nieves?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions from the board or anyone else in attendance? Ms. Sarah Ledger?
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. And I apologize for my camera being off. I'm on the road. My question with regards to that is with the reference check and trying 3 times. If there's an employer, for example, if there's a school that someone perhaps worked at and the school is no longer open, or for example, like a Catholic school or, a private school, private institution, or if there was a school that they attended for their credentials or whatever, what do you do in that situation?
So just so I understand, if your question is an employer that is not no longer like a working employer, right? We try our best to reach out to depending on which company it is. Sometimes they have 1-800 numbers where, by law they have to keep certain information. And so sometimes we are able to receive that. We get information from a previous supervisor during that time, and we, send that out and at least make the attempts to send out the forms 3 times for every employee, for every employer that they worked with children.
Thank you. And a follow-up question, if I may?
Sure.
Thank you. And what if if you're unsuccessful, do you ever reach out to the applicant and let them know, hey, we're trying to get in touch with this, this particular reference or employer, can you help us out?
So we use a system that will, I believe, inform the applicant that we're reaching out to the employer. So I believe the statute says that we have to make an attempt 3 times, and if we don't receive it, then we don't receive it. We are held as being compliant in getting that information, but it does not stop them from getting hired.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Thank you. I don't see any additional hands up. All right, so we will proceed with the first reading at the general meeting.
I couldn't unmute myself in time, but yeah, I was going to say, oh, you're on mute, Ms. Fortune.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I've been talking and
I
I've
couldn't
been
find
muted the
the
whole time. My
mic.
apologies. The final policy for discussion is increasing educator diversity. And I will once again turn it to Ms. Wilson to provide more context, and then Ms. Nieves as well, if you wanted to add anything further.
Thank you. So for this is also based on the CABE model policy, which is based on it's Public Act 23-167. So we have to be in compliance with that, and we are. So this is the policy itself is pretty short. It's fairly general. And it states that we will be in accordance with the Public Act and that we will develop a plan in terms of increasing educator diversity. And I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that plan is already done. It has been done. It was done in compliance with the law. I'm not sure of the exact date when that happened, but again, this is a policy that basically is just making sure we have a policy that states what we need to do, but I wanted to make it clear we did do that. So we're in compliance with that. And so this is just the policy stating that.
If I can add a few things. This Public Act rolled out, I want to say, in July of 2023. So as Ms. Wilson mentioned, we had a committee. We went through the recommended steps by the state, provided the plan to the board, to the board members at that time. So I believe in 2024, it was brought to the board and then adopted. And so currently it is in our on our website. And really, it's the foundation of all the work that we do in recruiting, hiring, selection, and retention for increasing educator diversity to diversify the educator pipeline.
Thank you both for adding these additional comments. Any questions from board members? Board Member Walker?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, just really a comment. Director Nieves, thanks for that commentary. I just ask that for the next meeting where we're, before the second reading, just to provide that link to that plan that was put together. I confirmed that we did have a plan that we executed in 2024 and reported results out on. So it'd be nice just for people who weren't there then to see that plan.
Sure. I put it in the chat, but I can also send it directly in an email.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, I don't think I see any other hands up. So we will proceed with the first reading of this policy at the next general board meeting. Thank you all for joining this meeting and for your time. This concludes the meeting.